Actually, I've got some things to talk about.
Well, good, because that's what we're here to do. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Reverend and the Reprobate. Thanks for sticking with us. We've had a bunch of great interviews over the past several weeks. David Baker, Stephen Mansfield. We've got some exciting ones coming up with Troy Basham from Mental Management Systems, I think is going to be airing in the next couple of weeks, or at the point that this is aired, has already aired. Or that will be coming up with this one. Yeah,
confusing.
We have gotten in this amazing just tunnel.
It's a hurricane of interviews, and we're in the eye. Really we're in the eye right now.
Yeah, we're in this vortex where we're getting to interview and talk to some of the coolest people. For no other reason than we have a podcast. We've got a platform to talk to them on, and this has been an absolute blast. Now, we've talked several times, and sort of the tagline for the show is two best friends talking to people who they have no business talking to.
It's very true.
We've gotten to do that in a pretty incredible way over the past several weeks with David Baker, with London Williams, with Stephen Mansfield, Britt Barnes. Is another one that, Forged in Fire champion. He's a moderator for their
When this comes out,
site.
Joseph
Carter, Groobs from The Ticket. It's been this incredible thing that we've had the opportunity and just really been #blessed to be a part of. I want to slap myself for saying that, just by the way. So I want to talk to you a little bit as we're closing in on Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. Whenever this airs, we'll be closing in on Christmas. We'll splice in a little bit of an interview that we did with a guy named David Sherrill. And for those of you who don't know, Dave runs Arrowhead Vintage and Handmade Goods. Yeah. And one of the things that Dave is famous for, and we'll talk about it in the interview, is he takes paintings from like thrift stores and motels and things like that are being thrown away, that are these old, like, landscape, sort of Norman Rockwell style.
Just crappy motel art.
Yeah, it's just the stuff that you would see at your grandma's house that you never want anybody to know exists.
Talk about, let's see, what is it? The supply and demand. Right. The supply is
endless.
Is huge. Yeah. Crappy motel art that nobody wants, and it's worthless.
Right.
But suddenly he slaps on some paint on top of it, and he's got a back order.
And what he's doing is he's painting Star Wars characters in the middle of like these giant skyscapes and landscapes. He's got some requests for like Freddy versus Jason, which is pretty cool. The Predators made it into a couple of these, and he learned how to paint from Bob Ross. We'll talk about the whole thing in the interview. It'll be an awesome time. So if you haven't heard of Dave Sherrill and seen the stuff that he's done, we really encourage you to check out Arrowhead Vintage and Handmade Goods, and then and look at some of the stuff that's in the interview, because it's going to be awesome. But that'll be coming up later in the show. What I want to know right now as I interview my co-host, the Reprobate, Danley Gibson. What have you found is the most interesting thing since we started this in July? Now, we started in July. There's several episodes that our listeners have not heard because they were just junk as we were sorting out whether or not this thing actually has legs, whether or not we wanted to do this or could do it well. As we're going into now, this is month 6 of us doing it. And
we're getting better.
We hope.
But it's still junk.
Yeah. What has been, the most surprising thing to you about all of this?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I'll change the question maybe a little bit. The surprising thing has kind of been my favorite thing, too, that there's been a lot of people that I have followed and my family have followed, whether it's on social media or creating content on YouTube.
Right.
That I've followed for years, and I've been interested in what they've been doing, and now they're coming on to talk to me. Like it's the weirdest thing.
It is.
It's really bizarre. It's fantastic, especially during the pandemic. I've talked about this a whole bunch, that it's really tough. Connecting with people is tough. You can't just take a trip to Ohio to go to the Arrowhead Vintage and Handmade Goods store.
Yeah.
Right. It's closed. But he's doing some really cool things behind closed doors. And we were able to talk with him about that. It's been really great for me personally to be able to connect with people, and also people that I never thought would have any interest in talking with me.
I think that's been one of the biggest things for the show that's been so kind of outrageous is that we're in our infancy still, and yet we've gotten the opportunity to talk to some really cool, very genuine people.
Yeah.
Joseph Carter, the Mink Man, the guy that
He's
invented
as real,
the new sport
he's
of
as
minkery.
real as it gets.
He definitely is. There were some parts in that
He knows
interview.
what he's about, and he knows what he's not about.
Oh my goodness. There were some parts in that interview as we were talking to him, like he went down his, no pun intended here, but these rabbit holes and was just going on and on and on about the information he has just in the distinction between mink and ferrets. And, this one is a derivative of polecats, and that's what it evolved from, and these are this other thing. Things like that, I think, are never going to get old, to hear people talk about the things that they're really passionate about. And it's a bit of an odd space to be in, because it doesn't it doesn't really, I don't know, compute with any of the other areas of our lives, I don't think, because the people's areas of interest are so vast. The things that they're into, they are way into. These aren't just like, when you talk to David Baker about blacksmithing, he's not just a guy that does this as a hobby. Like, his whole world is consumed with this stuff. And seeing like these, I've been fascinated with subculture. And so seeing these little areas of subculture and with a guy like Joseph Carter, who created his own subcultural niche where he now lives, is just a completely, it's kind of a bizarre thing, but also very cool. And I think especially during the pandemic times and things like that, where all of us are searching for like, what is that thing that's going to happen? It's kind of inspiring to see what people have made out of nothing.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to it.
All the friends that we've made, having a dumb show with 2 microphones, I've been able to make a whole bunch of new friends. So it's been really cool. What about you? What's been your favorite or the most unexpected thing from starting this? Like you said, where it's the 6-month mark.
Yeah, definitely the most unexpected for me was the yes from David Baker. And that happened very early on.
Yeah.
And it was something that was pretty shocking. Not just that Mr. Baker said yes, but also, when he reached out, he was just incredibly gracious and was joking around with us, was talking to us about how funny he thought the name was and all those kind of things. And then his career path has just been crazy. So that was really cool to talk about. I think the thing that might be the most standout to me is still how just intellectually intimidated I was by Stephen Mansfield.
Yeah, you and me both.
It was insane. And the thing is that the guy is such a gracious guy. I know that sounds super redundant, and of course it does, because we are not gracious men, not as gracious as we should be, certainly. But also we just don't talk good sometimes. I don't use my words very well.
It was inspiring because somebody like him, I would expect, would not suffer fools.
Right.
And he suffered 2 fools.
Yeah, certainly. And his
me being the biggest one, because you at least have read his, all of his books, and you had a lot of knowledge.
And I was trying hard not to fanboy with both him and David Baker, and that was difficult because you're talking to, I'm talking to 2 of the guys that I admire the most for the way that they do research, for the way that they apply their craft, for the way that they transfer their enthusiasm either over the camera with David Baker in the show or through books and podcasts with Stephen Mansfield. There's so much that these guys have that they want to share with people. And with Mansfield, his breadth of knowledge is just huge. And he's got, you can't write a book about something, I don't think, unless you have a good fundamental knowledge base for it. And the stuff that he's done with God and Guinness and the political books that he's written and his studies on manhood, and then his book, The Miracle of the Kurds, which was a big passion project for him.
Yeah, we didn't even touch that.
I know. And, as great as his assistant, Karen Montgomery, is, who kind of runs that operation for him in a lot of ways. Karen is absolutely brilliant. She gave us a list of questions that
we ended up needing.
Yeah, we did. And the reason is because Stephen, he answered a question and then your next 3 follow-up questions all within one answer and in about 3 minutes. I mean, he is going to be the source of our micro videos when we promote the show for forever. And he's one of those guys that I wish more people knew about him. Mm-hmm. You know, him and Troy, I think, fall in that same category for me. They're guys that people need to know about and need to know stuff from. But Troy's thing was totally different. Our interview with Troy, one of the things that we found out was that he has this weird backlog with his clients is that he doesn't get those word of mouth referrals because what they do with mental management systems, they're everybody's secret sauce. And so people are like, no, we're not going to tell folks, you know, how we operate.
It is interesting. He has to operate in the shadows almost.
Yeah. And
not by choice on his part, but none of the clients that come to him are really going to be advertising it because they want that edge.
Right. And I'll tell you, Troy, you know, he messed both of us up for a couple of days because there was so much in his talking points, in his area of expertise that applied directly to us. I don't know how many days in a row we were talking about the fact that both of us tend to be the silent assassin, that we're our own worst enemy. And, you know, peeling back the curtain a little bit, we were not, when we had that conversation with Troy,
that was a bad day for me too.
I was going to say, we were in this weird place where both of us are trying to figure out what the next move is for our organizations, how we're going to enter into and thrive in 2020, what that's going to look like.
How to overcome failures.
Yeah, and so we're in this place where we're praying a lot, we're asking and seeking for the Lord's guidance, and in the meantime, we get this guy who comes in, sits down with us, and is like, well, the fact of the matter is that neither one of you guys are braining very good. I'm like, oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Fantastic. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about ourselves? And he really did. Like, more than any personality test has ever told me, that guy was able to sit down with us and speak directly to the way that we're thinking about things, how those 3, you know, circles work together, the conscious, the subconscious, and the self-image, and where it's probably breaking down for us. And I assume that that's probably what it's like for a lot of people when they sit down with a psychiatrist for, you know, a couple of sessions, and finally they say something, the psychiatrist is like, nope, and then just sort of lays out your life for you, and you're like, oh no. Yeah. How did they know all of this? Yeah. He was able to do that in a matter of minutes. Yeah. Exactly.
Just playing mom.
So I think that there's some of those things like that and those scenarios where the people that we've been able to have on the show have pulled back the curtain, taught us some stuff about ourselves that really with Troy, people being gracious, with, in particular with David Baker, who was just a blast to have on, but also with Stephen Mansfield, who we even said in the post interview, he's going to forget more things than we will probably ever know. Yeah. And yet he was incredibly gracious to us. And it turns out now, several weeks removed from that interview, that it looks like everything that he kind of had his finger on the pulse of is actually going to happen. Trump's already talking about that 2024 run. It looks like
they started the transition.
Yeah, they started the transition. It looks like he's probably going to concede the election. And those are things that at the time that people were like, no, it won't happen. And sure that, you know, you talk to a guy like Steve, and I introduced him at that time. It's like, you're a brilliant political mind. And he just kind of like, oh, whatever. That's hard billing to live up to. Well, it would have been hard billing to live up to if everything you were talking about didn't just happen. You know, and I think that's one of the things that's been crazy is these guys who are experts are coming on and having conversations with 2 guys who really have no business talking to him. And I don't think there's a better way to describe it than that.
No, I agree. That's if I had mentioned my sister's wedding. There were several people who came up to me and said, "Hey, I heard you started a podcast. What is it?" And I kind of had a moment where I was like, "How do I describe this?" It's 2 best friends talking to people that we have no business talking to. Like, I have no other way to describe it. But I did want to say to whoever's listening, I was inspired by, and I forget the guy's name at this exact moment.
Must have been incredibly inspirational.
But it wasn't a guy that I really follow closely. But when we were talking about doing this, right, and I was thinking through, do I really want to get into this? Like, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to be bad at it at first. Like it's just going to take time. There's a guy on YouTube. He has over 1 million subscribers. He showed the YouTube little golden thing that they send you when you hit that landmark. And he had talked about just starting, which I've heard everyone say, just start. Right. You're going to be bad at it at first. He even shared his first video, and it was pretty awful. Mm-hmm. Joe Rogan very recently on a last week or two was talking about his first start, which I had never heard him talk about when he started.
Yeah.
Which he's been doing it for 15 years or something.
Yeah, a long time.
And he talked about when he started, and he said the same thing. He said, man, it was awful. When we first started, it was terrible. Like it just takes time to figure it out. So start. If you're thinking about doing something, starting social media, an Instagram channel, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, whatever content you want to make, just start. I would encourage people. This is the best time to do it. I mean, I don't know everyone's schedule. I'm assuming there's additional free time than usual.
Right.
But just start. It's helped me a lot. Getting to hang out with you, the controlled rowdiness.
Yeah.
This is controlled rowdiness for me. It's done a lot of good for me.
Yeah, and I also think that there's something to the idea that once you start doing something, that not only do you become better at it, but it helps you out mentally.
Yeah.
And I would say,
sharpens me.
As many people as there are in the world that have a little bit of extra free time, there's as many now that we're working more hours than we ever did before, because now we've had to add all these extra things to it. Turn it into something that's fun. I don't know how many people at the church have come up to me and talked to me, and they're like, so we heard about this Reverend and Reprobate thing.
And you're like, oh no.
Yeah, is this really it doesn't really seem like it's much of a church thing. I'm like, it's not. It's not in the sense that, yes, we're talking about our faith.
The first word is a church word. The last word is not a church word.
Actually, it is if you're a Calvinist and you believe that all reprobates
are unelected.
Yeah, are part of the unelect.
By the way, I pitched that idea to Calvin.
Oh, yeah.
The profile picture of him that just says unelected.
Unelected.
Calvinist.
I think that would be great.
He thought it was funny.
So when you're looking at doing those kind of things, and I've had some of the feedback, people are like, well, what is the Reverend and the Reprobate? Is it a church thing? Is it not a church thing? And this is what I'm doing for fun. I really love what we get to do on the church. I have a ton of just excitement when it comes to networking, when it comes to talking to people.
Serving.
The other podcasts, the other podcasts that we get to do that are community service, like the Lake Cities podcast that I do with another pastor in the community.
I think that is awesome.
We have a ton of fun with it, and it's great, but nothing that we're doing in those areas really fits with the type of guests and the people that we've had on so far. And so this is a fun thing, and they're like, well, this is the same thing that you do for work. I'm like, I am in this really unique position that I get to do something that I love and that I'm called to do. And the Reverend and the Reprobate is just that piece of it. So just to echo what you said, start doing it, because we've listened back to some of the stuff that we did in early July when we started this podcast.
We tried our best.
And it is so bad. I mean, it's nearly unlistenable. There's a reason that my wife is like, you know what, I'm really not into it. And I think it's probably because she listened to those first episodes and hasn't listened to anything since.
Well, we'll get her on board someday.
And if we don't, then...
Okay, go smash that like and subscribe button.
Never mind. There's no good way to phrase any of that. So there's a large swath.
I do this just to annoy you.
People,
that's like half of the
and
things
I'm just
that
skipping
I do.
over it. There's a large swath of people that are interested in what we're doing and that want to do something like it, but just don't have the. I'm telling you right now, 2 things you need to do. 1, get James Carberry's book, Content-Based Networking. And even if you don't feel like you're a networker, even
throw
if
it
you
out the window.
Yeah, and then
do
forget
your own
everything
thing
that you've ever known about content-based networking. No, get James's book. We've had him on the show. This is obviously he's somebody that we're friends with.
Yeah, he's awesome.
This is not as a plug for James. I'm not telling you to get James's book because I want James to sell books. I'm telling you to get his book because it will open up opportunities for you to be able to podcast well. Chapter 7 in particular, when it talks about...
That's how we got all of these people on, is following the book.
Right, so...
I joke about throwing it out the window. Definitely follow it.
Oh my goodness. So chapter 7 is all about cold emails, how you can do that. It's phenomenal. And then I think it's chapter 11 or 12, which talks about how to take what you have created and then turn it into little micro videos. And depending on...
That's what we need to do better at.
Well, yeah, we've got a lot of time to work on that.
Yeah, we have a lot of time.
So, but depending on who you use to host your podcasting site,
what are you talking about?
Headliner is free. They're a service with Libsyn if you decide to go that route. Anchor's got a bunch of free services where you can do the same kind of thing.
Anchor's getting very popular, and on the Facebook groups too.
Yeah,
they're really pushing that.
Yeah, they
By
are.
the way, join the Facebook groups. There's
the podcast movement.
We're in one podcast movement. We're also in one Christian podcasting association. I think I got that right. But they're great because we hear a lot of, hey, I'm dealing with this. I'm struggling with this challenge of some people are sick and they lose their creation, that they go 3 weeks without being able to create anything. And
right.
It's just it's a good network. So
yeah,
I don't know how we got really into talking about starting a podcast, but I'm sure there are people that are wondering the same thing, and these are things that have helped us.
Right, and whether it's a podcast, whether it's social media stuff, whether it is, you want to start a woodworking business and you want to just throw some stuff up on a Facebook marketplace, and you want to start your own Etsy page or whatever it is.
Get James Carberry's book and email Master Carpenter Norm from this old house. And then he'll reply back within 2 days, and then you'll have him on your show.
Yeah, you'll be ready to go.
That's what's happened with us.
And that's pretty much, and that's just one of the things. That was one of the things that David Baker even said. He's like, if you want to do something, just go out there and do it. Quit waiting to do it. Just go out there and get it done. Who has been, and I might know the answer to this, but I don't know for sure, who has been the guest that your son was most impressed that we had on?
Joseph Carter.
Yep. You guys have been Joseph Carter fans for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long, but probably since he was a baby.
Since Joseph Carter was a baby?
Yeah, since Joseph Carter was a baby.
Oh, wow.
I've been stalking him.
So yeah, he started his channel in...
I think he's older than I am.
Like 2008, right?
Yeah. My son was born in 2009.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how long I've been following. I don't know if YouTube gives us that intel. That would be kind of interesting. You've been following this guy for 12 years.
It'll show you when you subscribed.
Oh, I'll go check.
Yeah.
I won't do it right now. But
yeah.
But and he got to talk to him, and he got...
That was really cool.
He teared up, actually.
No way.
After.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I know when...
It was a very proud moment for me that I got to facilitate that.
That is a pretty incredible thing. So we interviewed David Baker on my birthday. I know I'm talking a lot about him.
Dude, Dave, that was
so
great. I've enjoyed all of our interviews. David Baker was the coolest.
It was the most... Like I said, the man.
And this is not an insult to anybody else.
No.
I'm just saying David Baker for me was the coolest.
Each new thing that he talked about, it was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You started off as a dancer? You made music videos for Missy Elliott?
You were on VH1's...
America's Next Top Model? No. No, he was on the VH1 Music Awards. He was running that contraption in her head.
He was inside of Missy Elliott's head with the smoke machine.
Yeah, I want to know a little bit more. He was a fight choreographer. Like the guy, every new thing in the guy's story is absolutely, he talked about failing upwards. Well, one of the things that happened,
to have him back.
Yeah. One of the things that happened, not on the air, right, that didn't make it into the episode was my wife came over and David Baker wished me a happy birthday. And he said, "Hi, Kirsten," to my wife. She got to hear it on the headphones and she was like, that's
super cool.
That's her favorite part of our podcast is a piece that didn't even make it in is when David Baker said hi to her. Yeah. She was like, yeah, that didn't even make it in, but it's my favorite part of the podcast.
What's that song? Brad Paisley, Keith Urban, Start a Band.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Get a buddy, start a band.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, get a buddy, start a podcast. Start with Jared. If you have a friend named Jared, try to start a podcast with them. And then when that falls through, because all Jareds are unreliable.
The poor Jareds.
No. I love Jared. I love you, buddy. We weren't trying to start a podcast. This is your narrative you've been spinning. This is your lie.
Anyway, been some really cool moments and some opportunities over this year, and a lot of stuff for us to be thankful for.
Yeah,
which is really cool in the midst of a pandemic year.
Yeah,
that we can look back and be like, oh, these are some things that we can be thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
So we've prattled on about the podcast. about our coolest moments and stuff in our first few months. What guest that is on our docket now? Mind you, if you're watching us right now, we're a few weeks behind what we're actually airing, which is another thing we would encourage you to do: create a backlog. Just so if you do get sick, if you do have to miss a week, that you've got something that you can fall back on and edit and still release out there. But with that in mind,
who's coming up? Is what you're getting at.
Who that is coming up do you think you're the most excited about?
Of the ones we have confirmed, because I'll do that because we've got some that we're still working on.
Yeah, that we're pending. Right.
I'm really excited about Leanne Morgan.
Yeah, she's my number one right now.
She is hilarious. I don't know.
She's hilarious. She's honest.
I don't have anything else to say.
She's really honest in her comedy, which I really love.
Listen, I'm trying to be careful with how I say this.
Don't be.
But I don't love a whole lot of female comics.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're women. It's because of the probably some of the decisions that they make in the approach to their comedy.
Right.
She has embraced everything about being a woman. Like, she talks about menopause and raising daughters and Weight Watchers, and I'm not saying Weight Watchers is a woman thing, but
right. She's just been really honest about her struggles.
Yes.
And I'll say this:
having thyroid problems,
yeah,
getting old,
yeah, and
it's all hilarious stuff. And not once did have I heard her get crass at all. She is just a hilarious person.
And I think that's unique.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, especially
I feel terrible that I said that I don't love female comics, but
I wouldn't. There
certainly
are
there certainly are a ton of female comics that I like, but on my list of favorite comics, they're typically men.
Well, and it's hard, I think, also that, you know, she is not setting out to be like, you know, Brian Regan. He sort of bills himself as the clean comic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas guys like Nate Bargatze, people like Leanne Morgan, they don't set out with like that moniker. I don't want to be the clean comic, but I want to do comedy in a way that's funny, in a way that's clean. And one of the things that
she's
I've noticed,
relatable, she's very clean. She's
smart in the way that she does her comedy.
There's some adult humor mixed in there too.
Sure.
You know,
but it's not to the point where like
crass.
You wouldn't watch it with your mom.
Right. Yep.
And I think that
actually I would watch her with my mom.
That's exactly where she falls into this category of about three people.
Yes.
Her, Jerry Seinfeld, Nate Bargatze, I think is in that category for me as well. The late John Panay. Of the
I say nay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. I can't do his voice.
He was hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, but there are I think three people living right now. With Bargatze, Seinfeld, and Leanne Morgan.
Well, Foxworthy, he's pretty clean.
That I would be. I'm not familiar with his stuff, but
okay.
No,
I know you're a pastor, but
yeah, no, that's just not my mom's style of humor. There are a lot of those comedians that just, you know, for whatever reason just didn't strike her, and like even Foxworthy and Bill Engvall and those guys that were part of the blue collar comedy duo that tend to be more on the clean side, they'll get into working a little blue, and that's just not something that those guys, that those three ever really do. And so she falls into like this very small category. Yeah, and she's really funny. It's like so we're talking to Brandon Vestal is one of the comedians that we're talking to. He's done a dry bar comedy special and he's done another one. And there are things that he changes in the dry bar comedy special.
So he cleans it up when he's in.
Yeah. And one of the questions that I would actually ask him is, you know, do you find that when you changed the punchline from, you know, junk to back, right? When he's talking about, not to give away the whole guy's routine, but he's talking about, you know, his friend's fiance and how
junk to back.
Yeah. So check this. So he's talking about his friend's fiance, and his friend's fiance comes in and she's like disappointed that they're going to spend all day watching basketball. And she's like, "Oh, that's so weird. How can you do that? I can't believe it." He's like, "No, it's not weird. It would be weird if we were rubbing mayonnaise all over each other's backs whenever you came in." And so that was that was the phrasing that he changed it as for dry bar comedy, right? And it was the other way whenever he did his comedy
Instead
special.
Of mayonnaise on their junk.
Right. So
I think back is funnier.
It is funnier. And that's the thing. So these are these are the changes that he made whenever he went to the dry bar comedy. And so I wonder how many of those things that, like, did you need to use that phrasing? Did it serve the joke well? Did it help? Mm-hmm. Because it seems like in listening to the comedy special and in listening to the dry bar thing, you got more laughs when it was back.
There's something to be said for, foul language, and, it can be very funny if used in the correct context.
Sure.
But it is also a cheap laugh.
Yeah, Steve Martin says in his masterclass on comedy and in presentation, he said that a curse word or swear word should never be the joke.
Yeah.
If the joke hinges on that word, then it means that it's a bad joke, unless
I was going to say, I'm sure there's an exception.
Yeah, the exception is if a kid said it. If a kid says a swear word without knowing what it is,
what about a nun?
Then I don't think we're having very many conversations with nun. He says,
I don't think I've ever talked to a nun.
Yeah, well, he says that maybe we'll have one on.
Sure.
So, but
as long as she's in the.
Great point. So he
what's
says,
it called? What's the thing called?
The habit.
Habit.
Yeah.
I was right there.
It looked like
I was right there.
Totally nailed it.
Go ahead.
So he says that unless it comes from the mouth of a kid, because when a kid says it innocently, a kid doesn't know what he's talking about, or it means that they've reached this pinnacle of frustration and that the kid has said something that they know is wrong, and now they are at a moment in their lives where they are ready to risk it all in order to allow themselves to, be heard. And that can be funny, but he says that if the punchline is the curse word, then it's probably just a bad joke.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think that that's one of the things that Leanne Morgan in particular does really well, is because she does talk about her relationship with her husband. And, there are parts of that relationship that are not share-worthy, right? But she says it in a way that you get it without knowing it. And that's part of the beauty, I think, of that style of comedy that is family friendly, but also realistic. It's also very authentic. And it is the way that, there's something about it that's honest in a way that a lot of comedy isn't. And I really admire that about what she's doing. And I'm right there with you.
I'm excited to talk to her. My wife is really excited for me to talk to her, and hopefully for her to say hi.
She's got some questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And
my mom's got some questions to ask Leanne Morgan.
Oh, sweet. I was gonna say my wife relates completely with Leanne Morgan.
Yeah.
Like, she connects with her comedy. I also connect with her comedy as a dude.
I had a little sister that was just Maine.
Yeah.
She's athletic and she's Maine.
And I like we're just gonna keep rehashing her
probably.
bits, but
we'll have plenty of time to fanboy.
I think she's
Leanne
great.
Morgan, yeah.
I think she's great.
I think she's going to be a fun one. Who do you want to have on that we don't have on the books right now?
Well, I have his name, but I don't remember his name.
Okay.
So I'm into this game right now. It's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. What?
No, I didn't say anything. I'm letting you talk. This is your.
There was some slight judgment.
No.
Yeah, but it's a great game.
Thanks for yelling that in my ears.
Yeah, I know, dude. That was loud.
That was horrible.
I didn't mean to. It's a great game so far. I really enjoyed Odyssey, which was the one before. So I'm getting to the point here that the main character is a Viking, and the voice actor that did it was on The Last Kingdom, I think it was. Maybe it was Vikings, the TV show.
Yeah.
It's Canute something. Or it's not. There you go.
Canute.
There you go. It's not, but it is. It is Nordic.
Yeah, not a good Viking name like Canute.
But the character, I don't want to ruin anything because I think you would really like the game.
You know what? I'm probably gonna play it somewhere on this side of Never. So yeah, don't ruin it for me.
Have you played any of them? Because
any of the Assassin's Creed games,
yeah.
I made it halfway through the first one.
Okay,
but it was so repetitive.
Yes,
that I stopped.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I also got fed up with them. It took me a little bit longer. I played the first 2 or 3 and then stopped playing it, and then I'd try another one and it got a little better. I think they took leaps and bounds with Odyssey, where you get to know, that's probably how I know Hephaestus.
Sure. Great.
You get to know the Greek mythology, and you're in ancient Greece. In this one, you're in England for most of it, raiding along the coast.
Yeah.
And you get to know the Nordic gods because, as it turns out, there may be a connection with the Nordic gods and your character.
And this is still Altair?
No. This
is a totally new guy.
New character.
So I could just jump into this new one, and I wouldn't have to know like all of the backstory.
Actually, they removed some of that. Like they kind of moved on because before it was.
I'm not set up in a lab being tortured to go back through my memories in order so that they know like what actually happened with the Knights Templar.
There's some of that, but it's more. It's more you really dive into the culture and different landmarks and exploring mysteries and connecting with.
We're fighting on Hadrian's Wall and the people of Northumbridge, or what are we doing?
Actually, yes, and
cool.
and you do go to Valhalla too,
which doesn't really exist. But keep going.
Yeah, you go to Valhalla and what's the ice giant word? Ice giant's domain. You know this. Quit acting like you don't know.
Jotunheim?
Yes, there you go. It's like sitting here laying out like, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I don't care. I don't care about Vikings. I don't know about Thor. I'm not obsessed. I'm not obsessed with Thor and have him everywhere.
People just buy me that stuff.
Anyway, yeah, you don't like Thor.
Your
at all.
Story.
So, man, I'm getting to the point here.
Please.
The voice actor, I'd love to have on.
Yeah.
That was a way.
Is this
over
Uhtred, son of Uhtred?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's Canute, son of Jotunheim.
That's terrible. And there's no way that that's true.
I don't know.
Wow.
Look, you asked me a question I wasn't prepared for.
I would really love to have on some authors that we haven't had on.
There you go, making me look like an idiot.
We have,
no. We did talk about a couple authors.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to some authors, especially of some guys who have had their books turned into movies that I'm really interested in. We'll see. I'd name them, but I don't know that most of our audience would care until they come on. The two in particular that I would really love to have on that we're going to reach out to are John Grisham and Michael Crichton. And I think that they were really influential for me in shaping what and how I read, because seeing, and the fact that now, after seeing the movie Congo, whenever I was young, now I have to read the book before somebody butchers it and turns it into a movie, because it was a really great book. And it was just one of the worst movies that's probably ever been made. And if you helped out in the making of Congo, I just want you to know there's plenty of opportunity to redeem yourself. And if you want to come on and talk about the production of that, we'd be happy to have you. But, those are two guys that I would love to have come onto the show to talk about the writing process, to talk about what it's like to have your book turned into a movie, what it's like working with different writers, what their different experiences have been like. I think those kind of things would be really
that
fun
sounds
and really
awesome.
interesting for us, right? And maybe even for our audience, but who knows?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Also, I want to change my answer. I want to take back the
goodness,
last 8 minutes and just give a simple answer.
Yeah.
My dream episode would be Will Arnett and Kevin Conroy at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, you can have,
and then we can finally
the best
settle.
Batman
we
ever.
Can give a line,
and Kevin Conroy can both be on here.
But we can give several lines and see who delivers it authentically.
I think they will both deliver authentic lines, but I think they'll be delivered very differently.
Yeah,
which I'll love.
That would be my. There you go. That answer is much better.
If there's a guest that you would like us to have on the show that you think you'd be interested in, put it down in the comments. Email us at revandrep@gmail.com.
Also, if you have any questions for us, that's another thing Joe Rogan said they did in the beginning that they don't do anymore.
The questions for Joe?
Yeah, just questions. Just send your questions and I'll read them.
That sounds terrifying.
I know.
That'd be funny. So do that. Give us a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts. Spotify doesn't have a rating system, but if you do it on Apple Podcasts, it really helps us out. And I think at this point we can go to this week's here's some stuff that I like, and that'll be David Sherrill from Arrowhead Vintage and Handmade Goods. Check out what David Sherrill has to say.
In Ohio. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to start it off.
Okay,
cut Lucas.
Go for it.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on. For everyone who's just joining us, we have Mr. David Merrill. Did I say your last name correctly? Sherrill.
No, David Sherrill. Yeah,
okay,
you were so close.
I know. We're gonna take a second take on that.
You missed only all the letters.
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Try again.
Other than that, it was perfect.
Sweet. Well, from Arrowhead, vintage handmade goods. Is that correct? I nailed it. I nailed that one. But no, it's really cool. We saw some of your paintings. Why don't you do it? You're better at this.
Okay, so we were first exposed to you. My youngest brother is like he's one of these people on Facebook that like he only posts memes or things he thinks are funny. And so he's a hilarious follow because he is just massive internet troll. And every now and then he throws up a gem. And I was scrolling through and I saw one of his things on the feed and it was like, oh, me, my brother, and then yada, yada. I was like, all right, whatever. And then the next thing that popped up was this guy who looked like the lead singer from the old band Bleach, if you remember Denny and those guys. And so there's this bearded man with these wonderful spectacles and he's holding up this painting that looks like something out of my grandma's house, except that George Lucas had gotten a hold of it and thrown in a couple of AT-ATs or AT-ATs, depending on where you're at. There it is. That is it. That is it.
That actually is George Lucas's MO, is to take old art and then add things to it.
Yeah, it really is. He did it in 1997. He did it in 2004. He forced us to do it in 2014 when he added the no into Return of the Jedi. Yeah, so it's great. So you really are continuing the art of George Lucas in so many ways. So
Absolutely.
How did you come about this idea to add in Star Wars? And it's not just Star Wars. You also do, I've seen some Freddy versus Jason pictures and things that you've done, which are really cool. You also have some original art, but let's start with this and move in that direction. How did you come up with this idea to add new stuff to vintage motel art?
It's basically called repainting or altered art usually, and a lot of people have done it. Banksy has a series of these.
Okay.
But I had a small vintage store, and I love landscape paintings. I think they're gorgeous, but I had some in my store for like 2 years and I couldn't move them. So, at $5 in 2 years, you're just taking up space. So
yeah,
I decided I was gonna toss this painting. And I thought, if I'm gonna do that, I'll do something interesting with it. So I painted a ATST that had like kind of fallen down into a swampy ravine. There was Ewoks like fishing off of it.
That's
so it was like kind of rusty and rotten. It was absolutely awful. The worst.
It sounds amazing.
Worst. Yeah, well, it was a good idea, but a poor execution.
Okay.
So then people liked what I was doing. They started getting excited about it. So whenever things got slow at the shop, I would paint a landscape painting, or if someone came in, they had a landscape. Then it got to the point where people were bringing me art and saying, can you put Mike Myers on this? Can you put this? And I was like, absolutely. That actually made me a lot better painter to paint things that I didn't come up with, because I had to figure it out really, really fast, because some people want Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Man, that sounds awesomely bad
Mark.
to put.
It was not only Tommy Wiseau. He wanted specifically Tommy Wiseau doing "You're Tearing Me Apart, Lisa."
Oh my
and,
gosh.
Gamera. Do you know who Gamera is?
No.
It's the flying Godzilla turtle character.
Okay.
It retracts its arms and then jets shoot out of the turtle shell.
Naturally.
Anywho, of course. So he wanted Tommy Wiseau doing the specific pose on an island with Gamera up in the top flying across. And it's called You're Tearing Me Apart, Gamera.
Man, that is right up my alley.
It really
I do
is.
love all the Star Wars stuff. I like the Big Lebowski, where it's it's a Starry Night, I think, right? That's had it altered with the dude flying.
Nice.
That's hilarious. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Magnet.
Yep.
I didn't bring home art like I thought I was going to, but I have a few things at the house.
That's so cool. I can't tell you. So when I read the article, I first started seeing the pictures. I've got a couple of friends that are artists, and I immediately was like, "Listen, I know what I want for Christmas."
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Dave can't do it. Your auto response on Facebook Messenger literally says, 'Hey, I can't take any more art. We're booked up through the end of the year.'" So how many projects do you have going on right now, and how much of this how much of your time is Altered Art taking up?
My wife and I have been shipping, and we have about 300 more things to ship
Oh my
at
gosh.
this point. And then after that, I think I have 20 more paintings that should be due before Christmas, most of them.
Holy smokes.
So at this point, my wife's kind of taken over the shipping department during the day. So I'm just down in the basement painting and doing that. But I've had worse days.
Yeah, no kidding.
So is
Painting's
this
fun.
So is this becoming a full-time thing, in addition to the vintage shop, or is this just kind of taken off and maybe going somewhere?
The vintage store is closed to the public. We're open. We closed March 11th, actually before Ohio closed. I'm on 2 different immunosuppressants for severe arthritis.
Okay.
I was pretty miserable. I couldn't really paint or draw until I went back on those, and that I got back into painting and stuff. But the reports coming out of Italy looked really bad, really bad.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I said, the first case in Stark County, we're gonna shut the doors and we'll just figure out what to do from there. And within an hour, there was already a case in Stark County.
Oh man.
So we said, yeah, let's go ahead and close up. So we just decided to do the website. And for a while there, we were doing just anything crazy stuff. We had a QVC type show where we had real QVC products that I found in a warehouse. So we were selling QVC. It was a plastic shoe holder. And we were also selling, I sold my mustache.
Like your actual mustache off your face?
Yeah.
creams?
I shaved it off and nailed it to And we were selling shots also.
We're doing
sold
that.
out of those.
You sold out of shots?
We're now going to do that. We're going to shave our mustaches at the end of the year, and so
I
I will.
I have
do
a David Baker-esque goal now.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
Well, that's good.
So you went from doing this sort of online shopping show. When did the commissions start rolling in? And do you think now that they're coming in at the volume that they are, if that continues, that you're going to continue to have the vintage store? Is that going to continue to be the storefront when life goes back to normal? If that exists in 2024 sometime?
We've thought about it, and it's just incredibly lucky everything that's happened so far. So if it continues, I don't really anticipate a vaccine for another 6 to 9 months. But if things go back to normal, we'll just open the vintage store. I mean, if things go back to normal, like I'm not selling a bunch of crazy on the viral internet stuff.
Right.
If it continues, we thought, well, we could be an online website and I could be painting. And then maybe we're open like Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And those are the days that I'm there. There's a very similar artist to what I do named Wayne White I think he's in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And Wayne does repaintings, and you've probably seen his. He'll take a very big landscape and then he'll add giant letters, like as if they're standing in that field.
Right.
His most popular one says fan.
Right.
But he actually designed Pee-wee's Playhouse also.
Really?
Yeah. And so he has a small Wayne White, I don't know if it's art exhibition or like a store that you can go into, but it's all weird, strange stuff. And it's similar, he's on a different level than what I'm doing, but I see it becoming something like that. I hope that happens, but we'll see.
Well, the stuff that we've seen and that we've shown everybody is just incredible. There's a ton of great response, and when we started telling people that we were having you on, they're like, the paints the Star Wars stuff guy? We're like, yeah, we're having him on there. So he's not taking orders. You guys have an in. We're like, that's not going to happen. But if for several of our friends who are in the Dallas area, you're actually from Springtown, and you said there's a barbecue joint that one of your friends owns that has some of your art in it?
Yeah, Woody Creek Barbecue. Jimmy Neely, one of my friends from high school, opened that. If you guys actually... Do you guys listen to alt country at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the band 100 Damned Guns?
The name is very familiar.
It was local about 6 years ago.
Okay.
That's the band that I was in DFW.
Okay.
Oh, sweet.
For a lot of years. We were I think we won some Panthy awards.
Nice.
Pansy Awards?
What is this knuckle duster you got going on?
Oh man, these were.
Oh, yeah.
So when I used to work for Harley Davidson, I had a customer of mine that made these for me. She thought that I looked like Jax from Sons of Anarchy, and she's a jeweler. And so those are solid silver. They say Texas, and then on the insides and outsides, they've got like the yellow rose and the state silhouette and stuff like that. So that was it was something that happened that was cool when I worked for Harley, and then I went into ministry and have continued to wear the rings, and I get all sorts of funny looks, which cracks me up. People are like, "Are you like a pastor in a motorcycle gang?" Like, actually, yes, yes, I am a pastor. This is Motorcycle Gang Church, so we're gonna jump you in before we baptize you, and that's
and we got to ink you in.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, David, because we have actually never discussed the rings on the podcast.
No, that's it. They were made by a customer,
but they are very prominently featured, especially whenever you do any hand gestures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You grabbed that coffee cup. It's all I could see. I'm sure you were saying something important, but
no, not at all. No, if I'm saying it lacks importance. So, were you in the alt country scene? Like, what kind of stuff did you guys do? Do you have any songs that are on iTunes or anything like that we can pick up?
Yeah, 100 Damn Guns is the name of the band. I think we're still on iTunes and other things like that. We were somewhere between like bluegrass, old country, like golden country, Hank Williams, and Johnny Cash, that kind of stuff. But we were a dark band. We had our record was called Songs of Murder, Pain, and Woe, and we had songs about a family getting eaten by wolves.
That sounds right up your alley. What's the band that does pirate metal?
Ailstorm. I've been listening to. Yeah, Scottish pirate metal. They got bored with. There was a bunch of studio musicians that got bored, and they were like, "We're gonna sing metal songs as pirates." And so they've got like 6 albums out now that are all piratey themed. It's been that's wild, man.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I know that you had a connection here to the DFW area.
Yeah.
So you do in more ways than just having a phone number from it.
Yeah.
Born and raised, y'all.
Yeah. Hey, well done,
Sweet.
you with the y'all.
Perfect.
So you've got this endeavor with the vintage shop. You have the commission pieces that you're doing now, and we might tease ahead. Are you going to be taking orders again in 2021?
Yeah.
And can I get a Rick and Morty altered art?
I've done a Rick and Morty, and it was fantastic. I love doing Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty, you can paint them flat, and everybody's okay because it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What I'm telling people to do right now is to email me with the word commissions, and when things slow down, and they will, I'll just start searching my email and seeing what I got. I've got 30 or 40 altered art pieces that haven't, or I'm sorry, landscapes that haven't been altered yet.
Okay.
And I'm always buying more of them. Everybody around here is looking for me. So there's no end to that. As long as I can paint and people give me money for it, I'll absolutely do that. That'd be a blast.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like living a dream.
Me too. I would also alter art. I would just really suck at it. Whereas yours looks awesome, especially the Star Wars ones with the X-wing and TIE fighters and AT-ATs, and it's super cool.
That's my love.
Yeah,
That's my love.
Super cool.
I love Star Wars. That's why I do the elaborate Star Wars ones, because I love doing it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That's the best days. Is when I'm just screw everything else, screw the pandemic, the election, just gonna paint this pretty little ATST, and that's.
So is that why you started Art Hole, the YouTube channel, where you can. Because I think at least the one that I watched, it was in a time lapse of you painting one of the Star Wars ones. It seems very therapeutic almost, or is it something you can do to take some time and relaxed? Is that what got you into it, or you just wanted to share it?
You know what? Actually, I had the idea to do art hole years ago. It just seemed like a funny idea. I watch instructional painting videos and time lapse videos on YouTube already, but to do an art show called Art Hole was something that was just on my radar as something I wanted to do. But when the pandemic hit, we have a philanthropic organization in the area who was trying to help the small businesses and the artists in the area by giving them different gigs. And some people were asked to do a video class that they could show to something. And I'd done one instructional video where I kind of taught some kids on Facebook Live how to paint a UFO in a Arizona sunset type thing. And it was silly and funny and
Inappropriate, because that's where the UFOs are.
It is.
Yeah.
So they said that they wanted to sponsor me doing 10 episodes of that, and somehow like everybody else had to do like 2 things, but I had to do like 10 episodes of the show, but I'd already wanted to do it. So I just started videotaping it, and I just left the rules kind of loose and like didn't ever give it any kind of a definition, and I kind of like that. I'm not really sure what I'm doing with Art Hole anymore, but I'm doing it and it's fun. I always wonder why everybody doesn't have their own show.
There's some people that I know why they don't. I've got a handful of people that are going to take that advice and run with it, and I'm going to come back and be like, listen, don't listen to David. All right.
Don't follow your dreams.
Don't follow your dreams. Your dreams lead down a bad path. But the art hole stuff has been pretty incredible. I know you had mentioned in an interview that you learned a lot of your art from Bob Ross. And just a second ago, as you were describing painting your happy little Star Wars,
I know I was waiting for.
Yeah, it had that kind of vibe to it.
I'm gonna put a happy little AT over here in the corner.
Is that something that long term that you would want to do, is to do these kind of altered art and instructional videos? And you've got some original art and some stuff that you sell at your shop as well, don't you?
Oh yeah. For the most part, I was a sticker guy. I drew a bunch of weird stickers, and we would make patches and enamel pens and stuff. And the painting was kind of just something I did for fun, and I sold a few of them, but I guess that's different now. But yeah, you know what? Ultimately, if the rest of my life was making art hole and making it weird and fun, that'd be fantastic.
We need more of that in the world. Weird, interesting, fun. Especially during the pandemic. I applaud you. That's really why we started this podcast. It's a new thing for us relatively. It was the pandemic for me. I had to do something.
Yeah, we need more. Yeah. We need more creators and creative minds, no matter how that crosses or what your interests are. We had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to interview a guy who's a historical weapons recreation specialist. He makes props for Hollywood and is a blacksmith and does a show on the History Channel. And that was one of the things he was talking about, is just getting people to create, because that's something that we've lost, in our culture over the last few years. So whether it's video, whether it's art, blacksmithing, or whatever that is, what do you see from where you sit in Ohio, where you've seen your career path take? You talked a little bit about your arthritis. Has painting helped with that? Does it actually end up causing pain at the end of the day, or now that you're on medication, is it something that is allowing you therapy in a lot of different ways, including like a little bit of physical therapy from getting to do those kind of things?
The medication cleared it up completely.
That's awesome.
The drug commercials that come on constantly and like give you 1,000 side effects.
Yeah.
That's what I'm on. Just that crazy stuff.
Okay.
That has completely cured it. And as long as I can take an immunosuppressant, it's good. I feel great. I don't have any of the limited mobility. I didn't let it go long enough to damage my joints.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You didn't grow a third arm or experience death as a side effect.
Yeah. Well, I'm very lucky that no, I have not had any problems with the medications, but that's just, it's awesome. I think about it, and 40 years ago, if I would have had this problem, I don't know, I would have had to die,
Yeah.
or just the way some people did, suffer for the rest of their life. My great grandfather used to take wasps and sting his own knuckles with them as a cure to his arthritis, or a
What?
temporary relief. Yeah.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, that's what he would do.
Wow.
Now that's small town Texas stuff. So
Right.
whether it
Yeah.
helps
Yeah.
at all, I don't know. Maybe
Well, I
just
guess
like,
it caused a little
That
bit of
is
an
a pretty Texan
inflammatory
thing to do.
response. Yeah. What are you going to do? Well, I'm out of WD-40. I'm just going to shove my hand in this wasp's nest and
Yeah.
hope that it works.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely a country cure-all right there. Man, so how did you guys start a vintage shop in the middle of Ohio? What inspired you to do that out of all things?
There's a really cool art district here that has festivals every month, used to, called First Friday, and it was more art themed. The storefronts in this area were built in 1950, 1960, and abandoned around the time of the malls. So 1980s, 1990s, these storefronts really weren't used for very much. Pawn shops and little sandwich shops that kind of come and go, but they were being used by artists, and we were interested in doing something with one of them because the rent was just incredibly cheap. You could have had just a garage sale and paid for a storefront at that time.
Oh, wow.
So we just took one of the spots and we opened a vintage and handmade goods store. My wife has always crocheted stuff, and I make weird things, but we also collect, Star Wars and lunch boxes and G.I. Joe, He-Man, Frankenstein, anything with monsters from the 50s and 60s. So we just made
Nice.
an eclectic little weird
Yeah,
store.
it sounds awesome.
It's pretty fun. We made a fun store, and then found out later that, hey, this is what we love. Let's continue to do this.
That's cool. We need to hook you up with our friend Jaden, who runs Jaden's Toys down here. He's a former WWF wrestler who also has like 3 toy stores, and like malls are bidding to try to get him to put stores in their mall right now. So
Wow.
yeah, but he's got a really cool collection of vintage toys and has a cool little network of folks that he works with, and so we'll have to hook you guys up because he's got some fun stuff. He's going to be on the show, I think in January, so just after Christmas time he's going to come on. But I think you guys
Very
would,
cool.
yeah, you guys would have some fun chatting with each other because he's got the new and old He-Man stuff and a bunch of the old G.I. Joes. So yeah, he's got a connection for the G.I. Joe parts so that he can get them and actually repair some of that stuff. Some dude in New York sends him a bunch of junk for it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, we are
O-rings.
O-rings.
What's inside of them?
Really?
Inside of what?
Yeah.
What?
Inside of He-Man, and you know how the G.I. Joes would kind of swivel at what's inside of there is basically a black O-ring.
Huh.
Yeah, so you can go to a hardware store and kind of get some, it's not the official.
Right.
I remember I had a Snake Eyes. I think I know what you're talking about. And his torso would twist. Is that what you're talking about? And I'd kind of pull it back.
Nice.
So it's got a bunch of O-rings. I had never thought of that.
Totally makes sense.
Well, hey, I do want to ask you about the website. So I checked out the altered art and some of the original stuff. There's also something on there that I don't know what it is, and I'm really curious.
Here we go.
It's the Warlock key. What is that? They come in different colors, and I'm sitting here looking at it like, what the heck is it?
I don't have my keys. It's basically during the pandemic, I was same as everyone else, thinking I don't really want to touch any surface. So what if there was a keychain that I could use to open doors with? And they were making them out of brass and bronze. So I came up with the idea. I actually had a customer who owns a small machine shop or works in a small machine shop, and they make toothbrushes and tooth scrapers for dentists. So he had already told me what antimicrobial plastic was and how it worked. and I wanted to make toys with him, but you can only make things that are kind of toothbrush shaped, because if any bigger and it starts to collapse, it looks weird and it doesn't work out. So I thought, well, what if I made a skeleton key made out of antimicrobial plastic, and then you can use that to open the door and push a button so you don't have to touch any surfaces.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
So by opening a door, you mean you put it against the door and you push it open, or it
Yeah,
actually
well-
unlocks a lock somehow?
Well, most business doors are like that. So you just stick it over it and pull it down. You couldn't
Okay.
open
I got
a
it.
round knob with it, but you can touch an ATM pad. My friend voted with it. There's a
Oh
lot
man,
awesome.
there we go. He's one of the ones. The Warlock key is gonna get Ohio recounted.
he took a photo of it and sent it to me, and then he was like, "Yeah, I was so happy to use your device." And I was like, that's illegal to take a picture of that, right? He's like, let's just keep this between me and you.
And now all 16 of our subscribers have heard about it. So now there's 20 people now that know
He's
about it.
going down now.
Oh my goodness. So what is it? Arrowhead Vintage and Handmade Goods is, and what's the website one more time?
Arrowheadgoods.com.
Arrowheadgoods.com. And we can actually order prints of some of your cool altered art pieces. Where can we find you on Facebook, on Instagram, so that people can get a good look at your art?
Arrowhead Canton is our username on almost everything for the store. And my art only Instagram is Dave Ruins Art.
Awesome.
And then we also do I do Reddit and post on there if you're a Redditor.
Right on. Well, Dave, thanks so much for your time, man. Thank you, guys. If you're a fan of the Rev and Rep, all of those links are going to be in the show description, so make sure that you check out Dave, check out his shop, support his art, and in 2021, grab all of that stuff that your grandma has in the attic, send it to Dave.
On January 1st, send a wave to Ohio.
Yeah, cut open the back of it, put $200 cash in there, seal it up, and send it to Dave so that he can get it. And man, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great speaking with you.
Sure. Can I plug my calendar real quick?
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
I'm doing a 2021 calendar. I think it's going to be available at least in the next 3 or 4 days. So, but you can pre-order it on the website now.
And how much is the calendar?
It's $20.
And it's a collection of the altered art, correct?
Oh yeah, 12 altered art pieces, calendar with a lot of nerdy events. So Star Wars Day is going to be on there.
Like
Awesome.
May the 4th
May
be
the
with
4th.
you.
Yes, and
Yeah,
the
that's
next day,
awesome.
which is the Revenge of the 5th.
Yeah.
Do you have like the Comic-Con dates in there? And I see
yeah,
I see you've got an
Comic-Con.
Anime Fest T-shirt from an old one.
Oh yeah. This is my friend's kid drew that. Comic-Cons are on there. Nerdy birthdays. Neil deGrasse Tyson's on there.
That's awesome, man.
Ray Bradburn and Gene Roddenberry, all their birthdays. Joss Whedon for my wife. That's
Nice.
her true love.
She
is Joss
liked
Whedon.
Buffy. Is that what she liked?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of it. Anything Joss did, he's
I'm
a
a
loser.
I don't know if I should be ashamed to admit this, but I watched Angel in high school, and
You should be
I
ashamed.
loved it.
You should be ashamed to admit
It's
that.
good. It's so good. It's not for boys though.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
I know.
It's
I
not
know.
for boys.
I know.
I think that's
I
the
loved
best.
it.
That might be the best quote that we have of anybody. It's not for boys.
No, it's not. But it's
Yeah.
good. It's really good. I get why you watched it because it was.
He's awesome.
It's vampires, but it's a step up from Twilight vampires.
Yes.
Yeah, but just barely. But Twilight also not for boys. Not for boys. No, they made a vampire movie for boys, and it was called Underworld. There's a very different main character in that one than there was in Angel. Does your wife know that you watched Angel and enjoyed it?
I don't know.
She does now.
Probably. We probably have talked about it, but who knows? We've been married 13 years. There's not a whole lot of surprises left.
Not a lot of extra.
Yeah.
Rock and roll. Dave, thanks again, man. That was a blast talking to you, and hopefully our listeners will go and support your art, and we appreciate you coming on.
Dude, super cool, guys. Take it easy.
David Sherrill. And I feel like our post
David
interviews
Sherrill,
always end
not-
with me going,
It was
So,
not Meryl.
this is the burn. Yeah, it was not
this,
Meryl.
Like this idiot got confused
That
with
was-
some shoes that I own.
That was really
Some
awesome.
Meryl shoes got
Well
stuck
done,
in my
you.
head.
So
Super guy.
David Sherrill was really cool. He's got a lot of really interesting stuff. He did remind me quite a bit of Davey, the frontman from Bleach, if you're familiar with the early 2000s Christian music. But super cool guy, and his story is really interesting. If you're in the DFW area, make sure that you check out that barbecue spot to see some of the art and stuff that's on the walls, because some of his stuff is there is really cool.
I told you ahead of time. I was like, yeah, his phone number is from Springtown. I don't think we referenced this so far. But I said, this phone number's from Springtown. I was like, dude, there's this killer barbecue joint. You're like, oh, yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, he has a killer barbecue joint. Okay. He knew exactly what I'm vindicated.
He did, but you were like, no, it's this barbecue place in Springtown. I was like, what's it called?
I found it.
I've been there a lot.
I found it.
And then I asked you what it was called, and you were like,
I found it. I could not remember off the top of my head. But to be fair, to be fair, I don't remember a lot of things off the top of my head.
You don't.
I need like a good 10 seconds to either remember or Google it.
And this is Woody Creek Barbecue? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got some of his art in there.
It's got his art. What a crazy coincidence.
You can order his prints online, which I think are going to be really cool.
It's the artist formerly known as Prince.
You can order some of his artists formerly known as Prince online, and he'll be taking orders again, he said, at the turn of the new year in 2021.
He's an international art dealer at this point.
He is an international art dealer. It was one of the things he was telling us that it was really odd for him to look at the stuff that was coming from Russia and places like that where his art was getting tagged, that it's kind of blown up on him whenever that first painting went viral.
He's negotiating in other languages.
That's so crazy.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. We are...
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep. We are admiring you for negotiating in other languages. Thank you to Google Translate that allows him to be able to do that. Yeah. So Dave's a great guy. Go support his work.
Get a Warlock key.
Yeah. Wow, how crazy was that? I'm not a huge fan of the name. Kind of from a pastoral standpoint.
Oh, okay.
The idea of the Warlock key does not really mesh with a lot of stuff that I believe and promote.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, great. So I like the idea of what it does. That allows you to be able to open everything without touching it, especially during this time. And as we're seeing the numbers go up, that's something to be cognizant of. It's a cool way to do it, and the type of material that it's made out of is pretty fantastic.
Especially the glow in the dark one.
Yeah, which we might have to pick up, and we'll rename it something Christian. We'll call it the Christian version of the Warlock
key. The Peter key.
Well, thank you guys for watching. I think that about does it for the Rev and the Reprobate.
Are my jokes getting worse?
You're just becoming more of a dad.
Yeah.
I'm
fine with that.
The older you get.
I'm also fine with that.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you guys for watching another great episode of the Reverend and the Reprobate.
Interesting, at least.
Yeah, and we'll see you here with our next allotment of guests. Like I said, make sure that you comment, like, subscribe.
Tell your friends and family and neighbors about our show.
Yeah, and there really is no reason to watch it.
No. As we've gotten everyone to say.
Yeah, we have. Bye. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week.